You know, it's been about 5 years since Family Guy killed off Brian Griffin. It doesn't seem that long ago, but it really has been half a decade now. Looking back, I may have gotten a little bit too outraged at the time. You see, I reviewed Life of Brian when it originally came out, and I had some choice words to say about the episode. I called it many things. Life of Brian to me was the definition of a ratings trap or a jumping the shark moment. It's something that a show does when it's desperately running on fumes, trying to do just anything to get people talking about it again. After all, we knew that Brian Griffin was going to die in the episode, even before we knew the title of the episode. And when we did learn the title, let's just say that it was kind of insulting. And not just because we previously had an episode entitled The Former Life of Brian. You know, the one that's not about Brian Griffin's death. I said that the episode did things that only hackneyed fanfictions do. The episode, in my opinion, basically removed any of Brian's rough edges to make his death seem a lot more depressing than it had any right to be. This was the Brian Griffin that told Meg that God didn't exist because she was ugly.
If there were a God, would he have put you here on Earth with a flat chest and a fat ass?
After selling out his own beliefs to get booze. The same Brian Griffin who also sold out his beliefs to get his awful book published. The Brian Griffin who told Meg to stay in an abusive relationship for her abuser's benefit. None of this was present in Life of Brian, which made it seem very transparent to me how disingenuous it all was. They weren't telling a story about this particular character's death, but just a story about death placed on a blank slate. Not helping were lines like this.
God, look at this day, huh? You know, usually I'd be sitting inside writing, you'd be working on one of your machines, but here we are enjoying it.
It came off as very melodramatic, but after all this time, I have to say that because of Life of Brian, I kinda respect Family Guy. I mean, I haven't watched the show lately, but the decision to kill off the character and keep them dead is definitely something that can be lauded, especially with a show that doesn't usually take this kind of risk with, like, Family Guy.
Hi, guys. Yes, I am that Brian Griffin.
Wait a minute. Excuse me for a moment. Okay, I have, just been informed that they brought Brian Griffin back to life at some point. So, when exactly did this happen?
Brian, look out! What the hell? You're alive, my friend!
2 weeks later, they brought him back to life. 2 weeks later. That's it. And apparently the episode where they brought Brian back to life is on the same DVD as the one where he died. Has Maud Flanders been hiding in the bonus features? Alright, before we begin with the actual review, with enough joking around, I want to say, I called it. I want to say that, but let's be honest, everybody called it. For a show that tries to be shocking and edgy, it's amazing how balls-less the whole thing can really be. No one thought they'd go through with it because this is Family Guy we're talking about. And the one notable thing is that they don't really respect their audience. It's been a very long time since And Then There Were Fewer, let's say. But we'll go deeper into that as we review the episode. But first, I gotta get the DVD.
Well, here it is. Family Guy Season 12. One of the worst seasons of any cartoon that I have ever seen. And look, they really want you to know that this is the one where Brian dies, even though this is also the season that contains the episode where he comes back to life. But I suppose Life of Brian was a pretty hilarious episode. Do I sound sick from saying that? Well, it's not me who says that, it's them who says that if we just read the back of the thing. You'll sit, lie down, and roll over laughing as you watch this fetching collection of 21 uncensored Family Guy episodes, in which Peter and Quagmire make beautiful music together, Stewie is reborn into a wealthy British household, and the Griffins mourn the tragic death of their beloved mutt. No, not Meg. It's a doggone hilarious complete season about Brian dying. Absolutely hilarious. Maybe it's hilarious in the same way as the Divine Comedy, I don't know. But let's hope this Christmas guy is a good one, because this is the gift that just keeps on giving. At least it better be, because You don't want to know what I do to DVDs that I do not like.
The biggest problem with this episode is probably its concept. Christmas Guy's sole point is to be a retcon. And while retconning something like a character death is poor form in its own right, a large reason why retcon episodes tend to be utter garbage on their own is because that thing that happened, yeah, it didn't actually happen. That has a hard time sustaining even a 22-minute plot. I want to show you a clip from the episode.
Come on, everybody, let's go to the mall. It's time for the Christmas carnival.
Oh, this Christmas carnival has everything.
Now, if you've never seen this episode before, you may be wondering, what the hell was the point of me showing that clip to you? Well, I want you to pay attention to how seamless the transition is, because the two scenes I spliced together are about 9 minutes apart. You see, the first 9 minutes of this episode is dedicated to a plot that has nothing to do with anything regarding the rest of the episode. It's a plot about Carter canceling the Christmas carnival at the mall. We spend 9 minutes on this plot, and then in the next scene is the Griffins coming into the Christmas carnival, which could literally just be attached onto the first scene of the episode, which already had a filler television scene. It's like the higher-ups realized the episode was far too short and just threw this in to artificially lengthen it. I mean, this kind of hackneyed writing happens a lot with the Fox sitcoms. Honestly, I can't remember the last Simpsons episode that didn't feel like a game of round robin, but this is one of the most blatantly awful examples of this that I have ever seen. Think about it. You could cut out literally the first half of the episode and you would lose nothing. And honestly, it'd be better if you did that because, well, the first half of the episode contains, to be quite honest with you, one of the worst jokes in Family Guy history. It's up there with the cutting joke from Brian's a bad father. Peter and Carter are in a hotel room for some reason, and then Peter starts to force-feed Carter eggnog.
Drink the nog, Carter. I don't want to. Take it, Carter. Take all the nog. No! Yeah, you like that nog. Don't spit the nog out. Now look at the camera for a POV shot. Say thank you with the nog in your mouth. Thank you. Louder! Thank you!
The joke is that this is supposed to look like a porno shoot. Merry Christmas, everybody! Hope you never enjoy eggnog again. Ignoring the fact that the eggnog here looks curdled to hell and back. You know it's sad when SpongeBob did this joke better. No, I'm not kidding.
Lose the pants!
So, right now, I suppose we should establish my number one golden rule for comedy. Disgusting, in and of itself, is not funny. Just making something disgusting does not make it funny. Seriously, this has killed just so many raunchy adult comedies for me. They just think disgusting is in and of itself funny, and it's not. It's just disgusting. But let's get into the main event. At the store, Stewie sees one of his time-traveling selves and steals his time pad, and I do have to give them some kind of credit here. The way they actually hid the answer to this puzzle in a cutaway gag was rather clever. It wasn't anything on par with making the baby Mr. Burns shooter, but putting something like this in a joke is on the right track to smart writing. Half credit only though because of how obvious it was that Brian was going to be brought back.
Starting to think that guy wasn't a real modeling agent. And I'm starting to think that other guy wasn't a real penis butt inspector.
And that's pretty much Christmas Guy. Did this review seem a little bit light on substance? Well, that's because the episode is light on substance. I told you the point of the episode and what happened within it. And that's all that happens within the episode. There aren't really any jokes along the way after the Christmas Carnival plot drops. Stewie does give a heartfelt goodbye to Vinny.
Thank you for everything.
You bet.
You realize, if I save Brian, my family won't get another dog. Which means we will never have met. I'll probably never see you again.
Oh.
So, I think this is goodbye.
But Vinny's character doesn't seem to really understand the ramifications of it, and considering Vinny has only been in like 3 episodes, it doesn't really hit home at all. But I suppose if we do want to go deeper into the episode itself, there is one scene that I do really want to talk about more in particular, and that's the ending of the episode. When it gets back to Christmas again, Brian is staring at Stewie all emotionally and heartwarming and such. That would be really touching, except that this scene apparently happened months after Brian was supposed to die. So has he just been staring at Stewie like that for half of the year? Also, there's this line here.
Brian, are we pregnant?
You know, people are still asking me to review the episode where Stewie gets pregnant with Brian's puppies.
You're pregnant with our baby?
But no, I'm never going to dignify that attempt at shock. But that's not the line that I'm talking about. I'm talking about the line that comes immediately after that one.
Thanks for everything, Stewie. You're my best friend, and I love you.
There's sort of this elephant in the room that Seth MacFarlane himself went on record saying that bringing Brian back was always the plan, and that all of this was a lesson to always appreciate those who are close to you. To be blunt, this is probably one of the most outrageous things that Family Guy has ever done. I can't think of a single thing that Family Guy has ever done that makes me angrier than how they handled Brian's death and bringing him back. Because the biggest problem here is that Brian Griffin was never brought back to life. At the very least, not the one that we saw in Life of Brian. He's still dead. You know, the loving dog who loved to be alive. 3 episodes after Christmas Guy, we had the episode Brian's a Bad Father, where this character shallowly tried to take advantage of his estranged son's acting career, selfishly, with no regards for his son at all. The episode just went out of its way to make Brian look like the most awful person imaginable, to the point where they deleted scenes that humanized Brian just a little tiny bit. All for no good reason. 5 episodes after that comes Herpy the Love Sore. Brian Griffin gives Stewie Griffin herpes, for no real reason at all. Stewie asks to be blood brothers, and Brian just goes about doing it, even though he knows he has herpes, and he gets absolutely no benefit from this whatsoever. It's also revealed that Brian gave Chris herpes as well. What was that line again, Brian?
You're my best friend, and I love you.
Bullshit. Season 13, Brian the Closer. After Quagmire pays to get Brian's teeth back, Brian ends up scamming Quagmire into buying a rundown house. Brian makes it look like he's about to apologize, but it's a ruse to make the deal permanent.
You're honest and direct and compassionate, and that is 72 hours. Enjoy your crap hole, dumbass. You son of a bitch!
Honestly, it's kind of disgusting. If I made a list of the top 10 worst things that Brian Griffin has ever done, they would probably all be after Brian Griffin was brought back to life. How exactly is this supposed to teach you to appreciate the people you have, or whatever kind of bullshit you're talking about? Because honestly, this whole charade is disgusting. Killing off a character is one thing. Bringing him back is an entirely another thing. It's disrespectful, but that's not what makes me angry. Bringing him back and destroying his character so thoroughly that it would make most wish he was never brought back, that is just awful. It's clear to me that with these episodes that happened after Christmas Guy, the show would be better off if Brian Griffin was never brought back to life. The show would be of higher quality. And here's the thing. I knew this was going to happen. I predicted this back when Life of Brian came out. I mean, most people predicted that they'd bring Brian back to life. It was fairly obvious, and throughout the entire episode, they convey it quite a bit. However, during the time, I predicted that after they brought Brian Griffin back to life, they would have him start doing awful things, like in Brian's a Bad Father or Herpy the Love Sore, because it comes off as, don't complain about Brian doing X, Y, or Z. Remember how sad you were when he was killed off? Well, we could do it again if he starts getting some criticism. Seriously, don't say bad things about Brian, because we can and will kill him off. People did care about Brian. And while I've made my feelings of the character very clear, I don't judge or disrespect people for truly caring about him, for liking Brian Griffin as a character. I know what it's like to truly like a character. And I remember the character that Brian Griffin used to be. The guy used to have principles. He used to be the straight man in a world of insanity. He used to care about those closest to them instead of giving them herpes. The whole Brian Griffin death fiasco, to be blunt, is just one of the most disrespectful things that I have ever seen in any television show ever. Once again, killing off a character, even ones that the audience cares about, I don't have a problem with if it's done with tact and grace. Family Guy did not kill off Brian with tact and grace. They literally had a squirrel kick him after he got run over by a car.
That guy sucked.
But even more apparent was that Brian was so out of character in Life of Brian. None of his rough edges were apparent, and that's a large part of the character. The whole, this is a great day to be alive quote is, well, there's no better word for it than disrespectful. I mean, beyond it being blatant telegraphing, Brian Griffin is someone who tends to be on the depressed side, the one trying to find some meaning in his life. He isn't just one to stop and breathe in the moment. He's the kind of guy who needs to drink and do drugs just to feel some kind of joy or even numb the pain. Then of course there's bringing the character back. Unless the entire point of the series is to erase someone's death, it's usually a bad sign when this happens. If Brian Griffin was brought back to life, say, a season afterwards, it would just be a failure to stick to your guns, plain and simple. An act of cowardice on the show's part. If it's not the death that's jumping the shark, it's bringing the character back, absolutely. But the fact that it was only 2 weeks afterwards, that's what gets me here. Punking everyone who remotely cared about Brian like that. It makes me wonder why people still watch a show that has just this much disrespect and, honestly, contempt for its audience. Like, why should you care about Brian Griffin? We fucking don't. Family Guy has gone past the point of a whole season of Roseanne being just a dream in terms of jumping the shark and just not giving a shit. But what absolutely kills it for me, which puts Family Guy on my forever shit list. Quite simply, is the episodes that came after Christmas Guy. I know the Family Guy doesn't have much continuity, but what are you supposed to say to the first Brian-focused episode after he was brought back, being Brian's a bad father? When I said that Family Guy killed off Brian 5 years ago, I meant what I said. That wasn't a joke. Brian Griffin, the one that the show started with, he's been dead for a long time. The Brian Griffin here, the one that's been brought back, and the one who was there in the show's heyday, they are not the same person. Plain and simple. And honestly, I wait for bated breath for this show to one day be canceled. Even if Family Guy may one day in the future have a SpongeBob-like resurgence, I don't care. It's not worth any of the things that the show has done. Merry Christmas, everyone, and remember, Brian Griffin loves you all. Make sure you get tested during your next doctor's visit. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm in the mood for some mac and cheese.
Okay, so we're here in the kitchen, and I'm gonna be making some macaroni and cheese. Now, macaroni and cheese is delicious. It's one of my favorite foods, but I have a little bit of a problem right now, and I don't know if I have any mac and cheese. So we're gonna have to see if we can find some. This box, I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. I don't think it's mac and cheese. No, this box certainly isn't mac and cheese. Let's see. No, that's not it. Oh wait, this. Yes, it's yellow. It's mac and cheese. Let's go and make some fucking mac and cheese. Turn on the stove light. Pot with water. Gotta turn the thing inward. We don't want it to spill and hurt anybody. And goes the mac and cheese. We're gonna be eating well tonight. Turn the heat on. And now we wait for our mac and cheese. I am starving. Wait a minute, that's not mac and cheese at all. I have been duped.